What it means to be Canadian. Well, I used to think that being Canadian meant one thing, and the older I get and the more people from across the nation I meet, the more I realize that it means lots of different things. Um, I grew up in French Quebec, but in a very English culture. My mother's side is all French Canadian, and so very exposed to that culture, but then extremely exposed to English culture because that's what we spoke at home, and that's where I went. I went to school in an English setting, so both worlds, and figured, well, there's an English culture in Canada and there's a French culture in Canada. Till I moved to Ontario, where I realized that my English Quebec culture was very different from an Ontario culture. Um, it's great. Canada's vast and it's huge. As I meet someone from the Maritimes, I realize even more that we're all extremely different one from another. There are some permeating elements, though, that we all do share. Uh, Canada is sort of laid back, more than you'll find in a lot of other places in the world. We are fans of peace. We really are. And you don't need to convince us about it. It's not like, come on, we should be fighting for peace over here. We are actually just very like, no, it doesn't make sense. The Canadian armies actually go out, and what we do is we hand out, food and water, while, other armies of the world are actually, fighting. We're like, oh, okay. Um, we have a love for peace. We have a love for kind of hearing perspectives. We are very diverse, and instead of assimilating people into what it is that we've got going on here, we add pieces of our diversity in and say, well, this is like adding ornaments to a Christmas tree. It just keeps making us more and more, elaborate and beautiful and festive. And we do, as a general rule, really appreciate that as well. And then there are ways in which we're extremely different. Quebecers are intensely artistic and really dead set on making sure that things are authentic, and we love when we make a movie and there's no happy ending. It's the weirdest thing because it's real. It's reality. It's real. Can you feel it? It's real. That's like the very French Canadian essence, which you won't necessarily find somewhere else in Canada. But Canadians have a definitely creative like vein running through all of them. If you know how many Canadian actors and artists end up in the US because of the talent pool, we're 10% of the American population, and we probably represent more than 10% of some of the bigger names, So there's a lot of talent here. There's a lot of opportunity here to really hone in your creative abilities and your performance, whether it be, musically or on screen or on stage. So we have this creative essence, which I believe actually feeds into the fact that Canada is an extremely prophetic nation. Part of our mandate is actually to be healing to all nations, and I believe part of that is that we are encouragers to all nations, and our ability to prophesy to other nations, I believe, actually comes in the form of encouragement to a great degree. All prophecy is for the purpose of encouragement, exhortation, and comfort. And I really believe that, Canada is a great encourager to the nations. We're the soccer mom on the sidelines saying, you can do it. That's, a lot of what we are. We love finding out that another nation has a great initiative going on. Oh, they're trying this over here. I hope it works, as opposed to like, that's ridiculous. And I can't believe they're spending their tax dollars on that. So we're quite encouraging as a nation. So I think as an identity, across the nation, there are some things that definitely bind us together. That we're not a cynical people, even though we're a little bit skeptical. Didn't know those two words had different definitions until I started really thinking about Canada's identity. But we don't like to get had. We don't like when people try to pull wool over our eyes. But when someone else wants to try something and it sounds impossible, we're pretty much excited to like back them up and make sure that we're in their corner, as opposed to sitting on the sidelines trying to criticize what they're doing as they're trying. So that's a little bit about what it is to be Canadian.